I'm Shannon. I'm an alcoholic addict.
Hi, Shannon.
I feel so blessed to be here with you guys. Thanks for the invite from Mary and I. Thank you. I wrote your name down. Austri, Laura. And I am so grateful to have Mary in my life. She recently was on the other end of the telephone line when I had to pick up the phone. And I had to make that call. And I made it to her, and she picked it up. And I am blessed that she did. I will always be grateful for her for that reason. So I definitely was predisposed to alcoholism. My dad was a chronic alcoholic. He was at one time he lived under a Georgetown bridge in Seattle. He never paid child support. I never got to see him. When I did get to see him, he would put me at a little bar in a restaurant. I was only like 6 to 8. He'd put me at a little bar in a restaurant, and then he would go in the real bar and drink all day while I sat here. He'd give me pull tabs when I was like 8 years old. So I grew up with my alcoholic dad, and my parents divorced. I didn't talk to him for about, I'd say, 10 good years through my teenage years. I had a pretty rough childhood, but then I had a wonderful teenage years into early adulthood. At 19, I got a call from him, and I picked up the phone for him after not talking to him. And he was very drunk. He was here in Georgetown, Seattle. And I just simply asked him, I said, Dad, do you need help? And he said, yeah, I do. And he was in a clear, sober voice, which was my first experience with the higher power, because I hadn't thought of him, or I almost had that immature childhood hatred for him because he abandoned me as a father. But something out of the blue, something up higher than me said, help him. I helped him. I put him into a 90-day treatment center. He became sober, and he stayed sober till the day he died. So he was my success. I got to see this. He stayed sober for 28 years before he died. So it was wonderful. But what happened was I grew up knowing I had an alcoholic dad, and I always had that, I'm never going to be like him. Never. I know how it works. I know this. I'm not going to be an alcoholic. So back to growing up, I got a job at Boeing, and I worked at Boeing for 23 years. So I had a really good, healthy career there. I was very much a normie drinker. I drank on the weekends with parties. I didn't drink every weekend. My actual drinking career didn't start till later in life. I got hit with a couple of big hitters. I turned 40, and at 40, everybody says you're going to start feeling, your health is going to start going away, and it did immediately. I bloomed out to, I had 100 extra pounds, and I'm like, is this really what 40 is going to be about? I started drinking casually at home. Right about, I would say, 43, I got laid off from Boeing, which was a big hitter. It was okay. There was reasons for this. I learned afterwards why I was laid off at Boeing. I took my first year away from Boeing and went to college for a year. Still was drinking. I started drinking kind of regularly, kind of every day. The progression was starting here. After the first year of being off from Boeing, my husband and I owned a huge company, used waste oil collections company. We had 60 employees and 28 trucks. And the economy took a dump, and our company was sinking, and my stress levels were going up. And then at about that same time, my dad found out he had stage 4 lung cancer. Now, I am his only child, so I am the only one that could take responsibility for him. And I took him in and brought him to my house, and he lived with us. And in that year, which to this day is still the hardest year I have ever experienced, I watched my healthy dad go from healthy to dead in 1 year. We went through chemo together. I sat with him every day. We went every day. We went to radiation together every day. One of the first places that lung cancer goes to, if it jumps anywhere in your body, is to your brain. So this last month of life was super hard. He he was very like the room for him in my house was up the stairs, and at that point he wasn't able to go up there anymore. Or he would wander, and I was so afraid he would wander to the stairway and fall, and I ended up putting him in a hospice room. Um, but during this year, um, with our company hitting bottom, my dad dying, um, I'm going to bring up this point too, because sometimes it hits certain people out in our AA community. Because of my thyroid issue and gaining all this weight, I decided to have bariatric stomach surgery because I wanted to be healthy. And it was great. It helped me. I lost a lot of weight. But what I didn't know, and I think someday I want to be kind of a speaker on this too, is bariatric patients or people, we absorb alcohol differently and a lot more aggressively, a lot faster. Um, at the end of my drinking career, which was my day of sobriety from alcohol, is 7/9 of 2017. But we got more story coming up here. I put myself in the hospital 4 times my last year of drinking. I drank every day, every night, 24 hours a day. I Because I have a little tiny stomach, I was putting alcohol in that little tiny stomach. I became very malnourished, very unhealthy. Um, my liver enzymes were elevated. Everything else was gone. I didn't have proteins in my body. Very, very sick. I went into um, the first couple times in the hospital, I was still very much in denial, and I would tell the doctors, I don't know what's wrong with me. The doctors know what's wrong with me, you know? So, the fourth time, and I had tried to detox myself once, and it is exactly what we all have been told, or many of you probably tried it too. I literally thought I was going to die. I took my last drink, was within probably an hour later, I felt it start. I felt the detox starting, and I grew sicker and sicker throughout the next 24 hours. I never had hallucinations, and I did. I couldn't get out of bed. I was so incredibly sick. And the ceiling was zapping. It was doing weird little zap images on the wall, and I knew it was hallucinations, but I couldn't stop it. Um, that didn't work. I I ended up being sober for about a month, and then I thought the normal thing we all think, I got this. I got this. I know how to do it now. So I'm gonna start easy and just have a drink, and that's all I'm gonna have. I probably wasn't a month later, and I was back as much as I drank before and more. I was able to drink a half gallon of vodka by myself in 2 days. By myself. And when I was so sick, when I ran out of my vodka, I would drink my husband's whiskey, and I'd run him out of whiskey. And then when I drank all his whiskey, I would drink the next thing in the house, which was wine. And then after I was out of wine and had nothing, I would have to figure out how I could get dressed. Most of the time I couldn't shower. I was just too sick, and get in my car and go to the store and replace all the alcohol that I had just drank before my family got home from work and school, and make it so that they didn't see, like it seemed like nothing was missing, when in reality everything was missing, and I just kept getting more and more and more. um, I was just so sick. That's all that life was for me, was reaching for that next drink. How am I going to get it? I'm going to die if I don't have that next drink. I know I'm doing, I know this is wrong, but I can't stop it now. It grabbed me. I didn't grab alcohol. It reached out and grabbed me and took me in. It just, the natural progression of alcoholism took me. And it wasn't going to let me out. At this point, my family knew that I was drinking a lot, and I started to admit it to them, but I also admitted the thing, like, I'm an adult. I can do what I want. It's legal. Let me be. I know what I'm doing. All this was denial. I tried to get life insurance because after I got laid off from Boeing, I didn't have life insurance. I tried to get life insurance and I was denied. That should have been like the first indication that there's something really going on here. I was denied because the medical exam they took showed me that my liver enzymes were elevated. So I don't know why they're elevated. I don't know. Well, yeah, I knew what was wrong. My last day of drinking, which was this day, I got up. I was supposed to meet some lady friends, and we were going to go through some hiking gear and me hike elevated. What am I thinking? I couldn't even get up to go to the store, but I went to my hiding place. I got my vodka out, and I took two big, huge swigs of vodka. And as I was wrapping it up to hide it again, that same higher power, that same feeling I had when I helped my dad, it just struck me out of the blue. I was not planning this, but I started crying and I said, I can't do this anymore. Nobody was home. So I called my husband, and one of the lady friends still came over because I had called her and I said, I can't do this. She came over because she knew something was wrong. So my husband and this lady, Jan, they got home. I proceeded to drink more because that's what I had to do. But I did tell my husband, I said, I got to go somewhere today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when a bed is available, not when a detox spot is available. I need to go today. No matter what, I have to go today. Higher power again for me. It was a Sunday. How did I end up in a beautiful facility in Kirkland, Milam, in Kirkland, instead of, I'm sorry if any of you have been there, but Tacoma Detox. I could have ended up in Tacoma Detox. But no, I ended up in a beautiful facility. I had no plans on going to a treatment center. I don't know what did it. It was completely out of the blue. My husband got me there like 3 hours later, and I didn't pack. I had the clothes that I was wearing. I didn't have a toothbrush. I didn't have a comb. I didn't have clothes. I didn't have anything. Nothing. They take your phone. I literally cried the first 2 solid days I was in Lakeside Milam. After coming down and being detoxed, and finally the fog started lifting there, and I felt within a week, I felt amazing. I was like, this is what it's like. This is what it's like to feel good again. I started walking every single day there. I did the meditation every single morning there. I dug my heels in. I worked on my first step, which was like 22 pages long, and it's handwritten. I enjoyed my time there, and I felt safe there, really, really safe. I was introduced to AA there. They let us go to it was like you sign up and you get to go out of the facility and to some AAs around Kirkland or around. And that was amazing. I love that. Plus we got to get out a little bit. My first couple days there, a lady came in and she handed me my big book. And I still was in detox mode when she handed it to me. And I looked at that book and I said, no effing way that I'm going to read that book. I said, there's way too many pages. It's way too old. They're not going to happen. Nope, not going to read this book. She's made me sit down on the bed next to her, and she goes, I want you to open your book to page 86. Do you guys recall what 86 is? It's when we retire at night, and I can read them if you'd like. And then the second paragraph that she had me read is on awakening, let us think about. So I read that and I went, wow, that's pretty cool. And so it's still my favorite part of this book. The book, as you know, all these notes were done during my treatment. So did I read the book? Yeah, I read the book. I have it digital. I have it hard. I have it small. I have it everywhere. I dug into my recovery there, and I did take it for granted. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed feeling good again. And I thought, this is it. I'm never going to drink again. I came out of treatment. I did I did inpatient treatment for 30 days, and then I did IOP, intensive outpatient, for the next like 4 months after that. I did 90 meetings in 90 days. I went to many, many, many different AA meetings all over Pierce County. My stepdad and I went to not Juneau, Alaska, the other big one. I can't think of what it is. To see we went on a little trip together, us sober, and we wanted to see the lights, the aurora lights. And there's a little town right next to this big town. It'll come to me, called the North Pole. And so while I was doing AA, this whole 90 days, 90 and 90 days, I looked up the North Pole and looked and see if they had an AA there. And I really took a little cab there, and I had my paper signed. I did an AA meeting at the North Pole. I thought that was really super cool. And I make it a habit to try to do an AA any place I go, just to see how it works in other places as well. When I go hunting, I go down to Natchez and I join their AA in Natchez. So it was important to me. I worked on my recovery very, very hard for the first 2 years. I landed a service position as a chair for a panel at Prosperity Treatment Center, and I did that every other Sunday, and I so enjoyed that. It was amazing to be able to and they're split up, women and men, so I chaired the women. And it was just so nice to see their bright, beautiful faces, and they would see ours, and you would see sparks of excitement in their eyes. These poor people that have tried and tried and tried many, many times, and it just felt good to be that inspiration to them. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. A funny story, I worked so hard on my recovery that my husband and I went camping one weekend, and he got in a bad dirt bike accident. And it was my Sunday to chair. And I'm like, okay, well, I had to load up the trailer, the bikes, everything. And I had to tow everything home. And he was in the seat beside me. And I have 3 boys and a husband. And at the time I had 2 male dogs. So it was all males, testosterone very thick in my house. Well, I always told my boys, because they played sports and they rode dirt bikes all their lives, and they played football. And I said, you either are going to be bruised, broken, or bleeding before I take you to the hospital. That was my rule. Well, it was my rule to my husband too, because he likes to get into quad accidents and motorcycle accidents. It's like, I'm not going to sit at a hospital with you for a sprained ankle. You better be bruised, broken, or bleeding. So on the way home from camping, he goes, I think I better go to the hospital. And so I went to Good Sam, and I did the little circle with the trailer and all, and I opened up the door and I said, get out. I got to go up to Prosperity and chair the meeting up there. I left my poor husband sick and hurt at the hospital. And I came back down after the meeting, and then he was ready to go. And actually he wasn't. He had to stay because he knew he had broken some ribs. Well, he broke 5 ribs. And the doctor looks at him and he goes, well, I'm not worried about your ribs, but what I'm worried about is the hole in your lung. And so I turned ghost white, I almost fainted. And then I felt bad. It's like, oh my God, I left my poor husband at the hospital just to go do an A, but it was that important to me. And I didn't want to leave the ladies there without someone to chair their meeting. So he stayed overnight, and he was fine after that. But it's kind of funny. He tells the story even funnier. He's like, yeah, you. I worked very hard. I had a sponsor, and we worked on the steps. I didn't get through all of them yet. I still haven't. So for the first 2 years, I worked very hard. And then I became complacent for the next 3 years. I didn't drink. I was very good. I don't ever want to drink again. I was so sick. I never want to drink again. And to this day, I still have not drank. I do have, as a lot of us do, I do have some mental issues with depression and anxiety. And about the first of the year of this year, I had a pretty good anxiety attack and grew into depression, and we were making some changes with our now small company. I grew complacent and I isolated. and I was not working on my recovery at all. I was not going to AAs. I was not reading anything out of this. I was not reading anything out of this. I was not meditating. I wasn't doing anything to work on my recovery. And I ordered on the dark web, I ordered some Xanax. I thought, at least I'm not drinking. And I got into the Xanax. I had 3 orders. One order came in as little pills, and I ended up taking up to 12 or 13 of them a day. The next order got seized by the post office. Why didn't I got a letter saying we seized these. There were meds. They were not legal meds. They're from another country. And if you want to keep doing this, you can get arrested and all that kind of stuff. It still didn't stop me because I ordered a third order, and they look like little Xanax bars. But that's when I realized I'm taking 13 or 14 of these Xanaxes a day, and I'm thinking, I'm addicted. Here I am, addicted again. So I hit that bottom one more time, and that was on March 20th. So under my big alcohol sobriety date in little writing is my new sobriety date, March 20th this year. I picked up the phone, and I thought of the first lady that came to my mind, which was Mary. And I think it was late, right? I called you pretty late. And I just said, Mary, I need some help. I'm addicted to Xanax. And like we tell everybody, just use that phone. It's there. That's what it's there for. And thank God, and I'm so grateful, she answered it. The next day, I was down at Milam and Puyallup, and I was entering into their intensive outpatient program on my own. And I quit the Xanax. The first week I was there, I was pretty much a zombie. We ended up knowing I was tested. They weren't true Xanax. They were something else that we'll never know because they came from another country, but they lasted in my system for over 30 days. Xanax only should last for 5 to 7 days in your system. So they were something else. Once again, thank God, thank that higher power. They weren't laced with fentanyl or something crazy or stupid. 2 grains of fentanyl can kill you. And something else was in these drugs. But I got right back into my sobriety again. I started going to my AAs again. I enjoy going. I'm now in the phase 2 of outpatient program. Have I gone over a lot? I'm so sorry. So anyways, that brings me up to today. I'm going to AAs regularly. I'm doing my outpatient. I feel good again. I feel healthy. I feel strong. And I use my daily reflections every day, my AA book, and I also do use a lot of, what are they called? When you, like, sayings, slogans, or there's another word, but I have my sobriety one is you never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. That's my favorite one. So I'll close with that, and I just want to thank you all for letting me be here, and I'm so sorry I went over on time.